Disney has mastered the art of tugging the heartstrings of the audience. From heroic sacrifices to cold-blooded murder, Disney absolutely knows when, where, and how to kill off your favorite character, and at the same time build character development and progress the story in a way that hooks the audience into the plot like no tomorrow. And since we'll be discussing the death of important characters, obvious spoiler warning. You're watching Top Trending, and today we're counting down the top 8 saddest deaths in Disney and Pixar films. At number 8, we have Koda's Mom from Brother Bear. Can we call this movie underrated? Despite pulling in over $250 million at box office, Brother Bear is a really great film whose quality matches a lot of stuff that Disney are putting out nowadays, and yet never seems to get any of the love when people talk about great Disney movies. You have some unnecessary comic relief characters, but the first act of this movie is so enthralling that you can forgive some bad characters a little while in. This is one that a lot of people just skipped out on, but it's definitely worth a watch. The death in question we're putting on our list is Koda's mom. Watching this as a child, it must be mind-blowing as the inciting incident of the entire plot, the bear that kills Kenai, the main character's older brother Sitka, linked back to a genuinely tragic death. Early in the film, Kenai, a member of the ancient North American tribe, receives the animal totem of a bear representing love. Kenai objects to this choice, and he and his two brothers set out on the hunt of a nearby bear. Sitka is killed on the hunt, and Kenai later kills the bear in revenge, and is transformed into a bear by Sitka's spirit. The third brother begins to pursue Kenai in bear form, under the impression that Kenai is the bear who killed Sitka and Kenai himself, and Kenai meets a young cub named Koda, whose mother is missing, who asks Kenai to accompany him to the nearby salmon run. Only when Koda recounts a story of his mother fighting back against human hunters does Kenai realize that the bear he killed was Koda's mother. It's a twist most didn't see coming, and a twist worked into the story very well, as all of the clues are presented to the audience ahead of time. Seeing this event earlier in the movie but having it presented with the context later makes it more sad, as the characters who you've grown to understand make the whole scene feel deeper. It's fantastic, and definitely deserves a spot on our list. Our number 7 slot doesn't go to a death that's particularly sad, as much as it goes to a death that's surprising and upsetting for the kids watching the film. It's 2017's Coco, and the character is Hector. Coco follows main character Miguel, a 12-year-old who dreams of becoming a musician, though living in a family that has banned music. Miguel steals a guitar from his dead great-great-grandfather Ernesto de la Cruz, and is thrust into a quest in which he must gain a blessing from Ernesto to return to the land of the living. Miguel meets Hector, a musician that once played with Ernesto, and later in a confrontation scene, Hector works out that his death wasn't accidental. In reality, Ernesto poisoned a drink he gave Hector for the aim of stealing Hector's songs, which he used to eventually become famous. Obviously, that's pretty sad in itself, but this scene from Coco really makes it onto our list because of the way it's presented in flashback form. There's no cutaway or illusion in this death. The scene really is as impactful as it is because Hector collapses right there on screen and dies before our very eyes. There's something very stark about the flashback that really serves as a good twist for the film. Go see Coco if you haven't already. It's one of Pixar's best. At number 6, we have Bing Bong from the beloved modern classic Inside Out. And yes, that's actually the character's name. You'll almost definitely know the premise to this movie. It follows a girl named Riley coming out of her childhood years and suffering through a tough house move, and the numbskull-like characters that control her actions from the inside: joy, sadness, fear, anger, and disgust. Bing Bong is introduced to the movie a while in, after the main inciting incident of the plot has already taken place. The two main characters of the movie, Joy and Sadness, both run into him in the long-term memory section of the girl they pilot, Riley's head. A bad moving experience has caused Joy and Sadness to be stranded outside the main control console for Riley's brain. It makes total sense in the movie. So Bing Bong suggests they use a train of thought, that's the movie's pun, not ours, to get back to the main console. This doesn't go to plan, and Joy and Bing Bong both end up in Riley's memory dump. This is essentially a giant garbage dump full of Riley's memories she doesn't have to use, and Bing Bong is already starting to fade away by the time they fall down there. The two find Bing Bong's old song-powered wagon he used to play with Riley in, and try using it to get out of the dump. Bing Bong, after a few attempts, realizes that their combined weight is too much to get out of the dump, and so jumps out of the way, letting Joy escape and fading entirely from Riley's memories. Unlike other entries on our list, Bing Bong's death is a self-sacrifice to save Joy, which is what makes this scene even more hard to bear. At number 5, we have Coral from Finding Nemo. Finding Nemo broke gross records for animation at the time it was released. Just over half a decade since Disney's first feature-length computer-animated outing, Finding Nemo boasted computer animation unlike any film before it. And while it's easy to look back and remember the goofy parts of the film, Dory, Bruce, and Crush to name 3, it's equally easy to overlook just how dark this film was in its portrayal of loss, abduction, and even death at points. The scene in question comes at the very beginning of the movie. The audience is introduced to the world through a beautiful shot of the shimmering surface of the ocean, and we meet two characters, Marlin and Coral, a clownfish couple who are waiting on their 400 clownfish eggs to hatch. They joke about naming their kids before being interrupted by a barracuda who kills all but one of the eggs and Coral. Though the death didn't happen on screen, it would be absolutely traumatizing if it did. The title card rolls over the image of Marlin clutching his last egg, and it sets a very dark tone to the film. At number 4, we have Tadashi from Big Hero 6, a 2014 film that was loosely inspired by the Marvel series of the same name. The protagonist of Big Hero 6 is Hiro Hamada, a 14-year-old robotics prodigy living in the fictional city of San Francisco. And no, we're not making that up. Hiro graduated high school before the movie begins, the first scene being his participation in an illegal robot fight which his older brother Tadashi rescues him from. Tadashi suggests Hiro signs up for the university that Tadashi studies in, and Hiro meets robotics legend Robert Callahan, which convinces him to try getting into Tadashi's university. Hiro attends the university's science fair after a lot of brainstorming and presents his invention, Microbots, a swarm of tiny robots that can link together to form any structure imaginable. After the presentation is over, the university catches fire, and Tadashi runs in to try to save Robert Callahan. The building explodes with Tadashi inside. This was definitely an unexpected one. We know the dead relative trope is pretty popular in superhero media, but we've really learned nothing from Disney's willingness to kill off characters in their other films, and this was a massive surprise to many on their first viewing. At number 3, we have the death of Bambi's mom from Bambi. This is probably the odd one out on the list. Whereas all other Disney films on the list are spoken about in their own right as movies, Bambi really only enters any kind of discussion in reference to this particular death. That doesn't necessarily mean it's a bad movie. It could speak to how well made the scene is as opposed to the quality of the rest of the movie, but we'll leave that one up to you. In the scene, Bambi's mother comments on the freshly grown spring grass beneath the snow, and soon after, ominous tones begin to play on strings. Bambi's mother urges Bambi to run, and the two of them set off as the music swells. There's revealed to be a hunter pursuing them, and gunshots ring out around them. And before long, Bambi's mother is shot and killed, while Bambi manages to escape, not realizing that his mother has been killed and calling out for her. This might be one of the darkest entries on our list. Unlike our next entry, there's not a big climax to the action scene, but its presentation is dark and eerie, which is what makes it so effectively chilling. Our number 2 is Mufasa from The Lion King. In 1994, Disney unveiled The Lion King, a film which many view as practically perfect and is largely seen as the highlight of the 1989 to 1999 Disney Renaissance. Well, to those who haven't seen Aladdin at least. The Lion King has gone on to have an enormously successful run on Broadway. That is the highest grossing stage production in Broadway's history, and is an absolutely beloved film. And there's one scene that stands out from the rest as being particularly iconic. This scene is one many people who grew up with this film point to as a traumatizing moment in their childhood. Unlike a lot of other deaths in Disney films, we see the whole thing happen, and it's definitely graphic. If you don't know the story already, Scar, the brother of King Mufasa, has his eye on the throne and plans to murder Mufasa by luring his son Simba into a gorge and having his hyena accomplices chase a wildebeest stampede into the gorge. Scar warns Mufasa of the danger Simba is in, who attempts to save his son and ends up dangling from the edge of the cliff above the charging wildebeest herd. Scar drops Mufasa to his death and convinces Simba he's at fault. Mufasa's death scene is an iconic moment in the Disney library, being a moment of tension where the audience is primed to believe that Mufasa will somehow make it out alive because it's a kids' film, and having their expectations completely shattered. The intensity of the scene is only added to by the sheer number of wildebeest on screen. Digital animation was used in the process to make the number of wildebeest seem higher than animators would typically draw. Of course we had to include it this high. At number 1, we have Ellie from Up. Up is one of the most beloved Pixar films ever. In just the first 10 minutes of the film, with barely any dialogue, we meet our main character Carl and his future wife Ellie. We're clued into both of their personalities and their life together. Up opts to not introduce Carl as the age he is through almost all of the movie, instead walking us through his life from childhood up to the time when the movie is set. A young Ellie tells Carl her dream to move her clubhouse to the top of Paradise Falls in an unnamed South American country, and after the two of them grow up and get married, they restore the house and make it their shared home. We're treated to snapshots of different moments in the pair's life together, including Carl's job as a balloon seller at the zoo where Ellie works, the couple's unfortunate miscarriage, already a very sad scene in itself, and an elderly Carl's attempts to holiday with Ellie in Paradise Falls. On the day Carl packs a picnic on a walk to surprise Ellie with the tickets, she falls ill on the walk and dies before the two of them could complete the trip. The shot of Carl after the funeral is the saddest thing anyone my age has ever seen. And that's our list. Did you agree? Disagree? Want to share something we may have missed? Let us know in the comments section. We love hearing from you. If you enjoyed the video, feel free to like the video, share with friends, and subscribe to Top Trending for more regular countdown videos such as this one.